Now, this is a recent case I did surveillance on. The assignment had multiple objectives involved. First, the client needed to know where the subject was laying his head. They had some ideas, but were not sure and needed to know for sure. The second objective was to find out where he was employed. This was a civil matter, and the client needed the subject and his employer served, and they knew they would possibly have to serve future papers too, so we needed to keep it as covert as possible. During our initial investigation, I was able to determine a possible associate of his, whom we also believed was potentially his girlfriend, and we had also received some intel that he was recently incarcerated at a work release facility, but we did not know what city or what facility. Now, our initial searches as well came up blank when we searched for arrests, which was also puzzling to us until we found out why, and we will cover that here in just a few minutes too. According to intel from a CI, that is a confidential informant, we were pretty sure he was being picked up every morning and being taken to work. We also knew it was most likely early in the morning, but we were not sure how early, where he was being picked up, or where he was being taken. With that information, combined with a photo ID of my subject, a description of his girlfriend's vehicle, and a potential address for her, I was as ready as I could be to get out and conduct the surveillance. So, dark 30, 3:30 to be exact, rolls around. I got up, I grabbed my equipment, and I headed out the door. This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. I got on scene and confirmed the girlfriend's vehicle was present, and man, was I ever relieved to see that. It could have probably been a bust, a very short day on surveillance if it wasn't there. My hopes were that she would lead me to wherever he was laying his head. I got all set up, blacked out, ready to go, and you won't believe what happened next. Suddenly, I'm not kidding you, like 10 minutes after I arrived, I see the car lights come on. Someone remote started the car. I was like, oh my goodness, here we go already. I got my camera up and in place and ready to get me some good video. Maybe, just maybe, he is there and will come out any minute. So I waited, and I waited. And I waited some more. After what seemed like eternity, probably 5 or 10 minutes, here comes the girlfriend out the door. She gets in the car, backs it out of the driveway, and takes off like a banshee. Here we go, folks. The chase is on. Now remember, it is a little before 4 a.m. in the morning. One of the things I love about this time of the day, there is not a lot of traffic out at 4 a.m. in the morning. One of the things I hate about this time of the day, there is not a lot of traffic out at 4 a.m. in the morning. So I have to try to get my blackouts down, my gear put away, my car started, and catch up to her without making a scene, getting noticed, or getting burned. Well, folks, I managed to do just that with the help from some stoplights and one lone police cruiser. Now, these smaller cities around here, when they roll up the sidewalks at night, most stoplights go to flashing yellow on one side and flashing red on the other side. Luckily for me, she was going the direction of all of the flashing red lights. And then, when she saw that lone patrol car, she decided to slow down a bit too. Next, she suddenly gets on the highway heading out of town. Folks, this is always fun. Following someone at 4 a.m. in the morning on a 4-lane highway, and the only cars out there are you and your target. I tried to maintain some distance for the most part. Luckily, I also know the road pretty good, so I know where the stoplights are, where the trouble areas are, and where I can lose her. So I speed up a little when I approach them. I followed her over 45 minutes through and across 3 towns. How I didn't get burned up to this point was a wonder to me. Then she heads in the direction of the county jail facilities. Now, I'm running through all of the scenarios in my mind. If she goes to the primary work release center, I know where it is. But there's also a low security halfway house there too. She could head there. And then the jail is right there as well. I dropped back a ways so I could make sure I could find a good place to park and watch her and get video from just about anywhere she parked. I see her park right in front of the work release building. Then suddenly, here comes my subject right out of the front door, gets in the vehicle, they take off, and away we go. The chase is on again. Now I am like, goodness, I don't know if my old heart can take this much excitement anymore. I followed them for another 30 minutes, through and across 3 more towns, then into some residential neighborhoods. Again, I slowed down, I pulled back a bit, and I followed them in a few seconds after they entered the neighborhood. I then did a neighborhood canvass to try to find them, and then I found them. Sitting in front of a house with several other cars, several other men, and several work trucks. Those work trucks had the company logo, the phone number, and the name plastered all over them. All the guys got out of their cars and headed to the trucks, got in, and away they went. Man, I love it when a plan comes together, folks. In the matter of just a couple of hours, I found where my subject was laying his head in jail, but it was easy to get him served there too. And I found where he was working so we could get his employer served garnishment papers as well. Now, folks, here are some great tips for doing early morning surveillance. It is really nice in some ways because no one is up and no one is watching and no one is on the road. So you can get set up quickly, do a walk-by if necessary, and find that sweet spot to watch them from. But many times doing early morning surveillance means you will likely get early morning activity on your subject. If they go mobile, you may easily find yourself on a long stretch of road where it is just you and them. Making sure that you know the avenues your subject may take is important. I usually show up a bit early or do a pre-surveillance recon trip to take a look at things, like knowing about the flashing stoplights. When following on the open road, I try to hang back a bit and never do anything to make anyone notice me. Don't turn bright lights on. Don't use turn signals too early. Don't not use turn signals, especially if your subject is using them. Now, sure, if your subject is spooked, he may turn on his signal, wait for you to turn yours on, and then turn his off and go straight or go the other way. But hey, this is better to know early than to not know at all. The big question, why didn't he come up on any of the county arrest records or show incarcerated? Well, it seems sometimes when people do work release, at least around here, it can take days before they're entered into the public access systems. I don't know why that is, but it is. I actually talked to someone at that county sheriff's department, and they said it just gets delayed. This is something you must keep in mind, folks. I don't care how good you think your databases are, how good you think your other data sources are. Sometimes humans just get in the way and slow things down. Had we gone with the information we had and didn't think that he was incarcerated, I might have started later and would have never been successful. Assuming my intel from the CI had some credibility, I knew that most work releases do not let anyone out until 5 a.m. at the earliest. Using that info, I backtracked things and calculated the trip for the 4 nearest counties, and wouldn't you know it, he was in the one the furthest away, so she had to leave the earliest.